attacks are strongly discouraged. But knowing these two, as
they
I
about
do,
to go at it. They
I can
about
make
to
no
go at it.
promises. Returning to Uncensored, host of the Candace podcast, Candace Owens, and the author of the Israel Warrior and the Michael Jackson tapes, Rabbi Shmuley. So welcome to both of you.
Not the Michael Jackson
First of all,
tapes.
it's great you're doing this.
And it's kind of crazy that he owned the tapes, but he wrote a book called Michael Jackson's Tapes, but Michael Jackson had him on an enemy list.
You've had a public feud for a couple of years now. You've torn into each other in various forums. This is your chance to take each other on. And at the center of this, as I said in the intro there, is a very serious global story, which is the Israel-Hamas war and all the complexities that come away from that. I want to give you both the chance to make an opening statement. So Rabbi Shmuley, you won the toss. We didn't really actually toss, but we both agreed you can do this. You go first. Your opening remarks.
Thank you, Pierce, for having me. And Candace, thank you for debating me. I have spent my life bringing together the Black and Jewish communities, emphasizing that we share not only a history of shared persecution, but of spiritual promise. Today, we debate an American tragedy, a woman of unique eloquence who has abused that eloquence to become simultaneously the foremost anti-Black rhetorician in all of the United States and the foremost anti-Semite in America.
I mean, hold on, the most profound anti-Black? Like, come on now. The KKK members still exist with YouTube now. Come on.
Statements that Candace has made against her own community.
Make sure you like the video, man. Let's get the likes up.
Wolf and constantly say that they're victims of racism. Her attacks on George Floyd, a man who was suffocated to death for a $20 counterfeit note saying that he was a horrible human being. A woman who went up in front of CPAC and said, I was never a slave in America, as if that's the only form of discrimination, is what has led her community to call her not Candace, but Clandace. The first ever female Black woman who appears in her rhetoric against Blacks, calling LeBron James dumb and stupid, an icon to the Black community, as
she never
Candace.
said that now. Come on now.
Simultaneously.
That's crazy. She never said that. She never said that. But I know white women who've said that.
You have the Jewish community beginning to call her not Candace Owens, but Candace Owens. Because her Gogol-style rhetoric against Jews, that Jews are nearly all pedophiles. The State of Israel will set up a Theodor Herzl, a pedophile, as a haven for pedophiles. That Judaism is a demonic, satanic cult that only protects pedophiles. And by the way, her absolute obsession with Jewish sexuality and Jewish genitalia.
The way AIPAC was started, you would think.
Lady of France, Brigitte Macron's genitalia is disturbing. It's one of the reasons I think she hates Sigmund Freud so much, because she's a...
Hold on, Brigitte Macron is Jewish? Oh, I did not know that.
Freudian field dream in terms of his arguments that the greater the sexual suppression and repression, the greater we see violence. But when you say that the Jews killed JFK because he was about to ostracize Israel, when you invent all of these fabrications out of whole cloth, what is the result? The result is the demonization of Jews that leads to violence. Pierce, just 1 week ago, 2 days after Candace falsely accused me, as she has for 2 years, of being a murderer, of threatening to kill her, something for which she will face legal action because you cannot malign a rabbi and his daughter as murderers.
She never said they were murderers. She said they was harassers. Like, they were just harassing her. Every time they come out and do something like weird, come out talking about her, slandering her. Yeah, it's damn near harassment at a certain point by a rabbi at that.
2 days later, I was swatted in my house.
Make sure to like the video, man. Let's get the likes to 10.
Had to break into my house because Mayor Michael Wilds of Englewood, New Jersey, received an email arguably from one of Candace's followers after she said essentially what Henry II says, who will rid me of this troublesome priest, which leads directly to the murder of Thomas Becket, who today is a Catholic saint, of course. We were swatted, and the FBI is now investigating Candace's rhetoric. They're investigating
Rabbi Shmuley, I'm interrupting because you've now been speaking for 3 minutes.
One final point.
Yeah, but you don't went on a tangent on
Candace
her, bro.
will get exactly the same amount of time. It's up to you.
Man, we got 6 of y'all in here, man. Let's make sure to double tap that screen and 3 dots up in the corner, man. Let's like the video. Let's spread the conversation. Let's get more people in on it. Appreciate y'all.
It's an opening statement, right? And what I would say,
God.
May I?
Bro spent a solid 3 minutes low key just going at her neck.
Yeah, may I just say finally, if I may?
I'm almost
just
impressed.
quick.
The biggest issue I have with Candace, to be honest, is that she claims to be a Christian. Candace, didn't Jesus say you're supposed to love your enemies? Is the love you show me that you call me filth twice on the last show that you did with Pierce a piece of filth? You're supposed to love your enemies. Is that turning the other cheek? And Pierce, you're an English gentleman. I've known you for many years. You allowed her to say that without even a piece of filth. When Jesus said that you're supposed to turn the other cheek, where have you ever turned the other cheek? When Jesus said that the meek shall inherit the earth, the arrogance, the nonstop attack against Jews.
We got 84 y'all in here, man. This is a great start, man. Let's go ahead and double tap that screen and let's get the 3 dots up there. Go ahead and like the video, man. We appreciate your support.
Jews, the demonization. If you are a Christian, then I am the second coming of Christ.
okay, that's 4 minutes you've spoken to. Out of fairness, Candace, if you want to use 4 minutes to respond, you can. All I would note.
Hey, what's so funny about Candace is every time you see her bite her lips like, She wanted to low-key interrupt. I could see it.
Rabbi Shmuley, is you've spent 4 minutes personally attacking Candace Owens.
No
I
point
set
made.
this up as a debate about what is happening with the Israel-Hamas war, anti-Semitism, and so on and so on. You've turned it all completely, immediately, into an ad hominem onslaught against Candace.
How could you possibly say that? You are speaking to a woman who says the Jews are a ring of demonic pedophiles, and you're saying that I have no right to defend my people. You know, Pierce, you have to stop this once and for all. There was nothing ad hominem at all.
All right.
When Candace says that the black community
you've had your say.
is a bunch of crybabies,
Okay.
everything I said was
can't just keep
policy. I
talking.
could not disagree more.
I mean, she ain't wrong. When she said the black community low-key be a bunch of crybabies. Now, she didn't say that word for word, but I'll go ahead and I'll say it word for y'all. Yeah, the black community, most of us in the black community can be a bunch of crybabies. There you go. It's been said.
Candace will now get the same amount of time if you wanted, Candace, to respond.
Thank you, Piers. And I don't think I really do need to respond to the ad hominem attacks. I think actually one of the things that plausibly unites people across all religions, Muslims, Jews, Christians, is that we all recognize that Rabbi Shmuley is unhinged. He's just mentally, in my view, unwell. And I don't say that as an attack. I say that as just a reality, because I've never seen someone just make things up out of thin air that were never said. And trying to screen that as a defense of black people. The black people will never accept Rabbi Shmuley after Michael Jackson put him on a list of people who he felt were ruining his life. So you can stop your pleas with Black America. They won't work. Now, going back to the context of what you've asked us to speak about today, you know, I think one of the things that the world is recognizing and what we've all...
Yes. Rabbi Shmuley was on a list that Michael Jackson kept of a list of, well, I'm going to be real with you, Jewish people who he said was coming after him, who he said was trying to take him out the game. And Rabbi Shmuley was, well, Michael Jackson's rabbi, and he had his name on there.
Always recognize is that there are radical fringe sects that break out within every single religion, amongst every race. There's white supremacy, there's black supremacy, there's radical Islam, there are all of these Christ cults around the world. And I think right now it's important for people to understand that radical Judaism is also a thing, and you're watching an example of it right now on your screen. The person sitting across from me, or sitting next to me, I guess, it posted on his Facebook page in 2016 a tribute to someone who he said was his mentor. That was Rabbi Menachem Schneerson. He said he was his mentor and his friend. Now, for those of you who are not familiar with Rabbi Schneerson, there were some Jews who believed that he was and is the Messiah. So rejecting Christ, but believing that that rabbi was his Messiah. Now, you may remember in the news recently, there was this radicalized faction of the Lubavitch Orthodox community in Brooklyn that were digging tunnels in Brooklyn and hurling benches at police officers. Well, and by the way, this is per the Times of Israel, that faction of individuals are followers of Rabbi Schneerson. So again, you have...
We got 360 y'all in here, man. Make sure to double tap that screen and let's get us to 20 likes, man. I appreciate the support. Let's go.
Of Rabbi Shmuley, who believes that that's his mentor. They believed that he was the Messiah. What is it? It becomes important to understand. What did Rabbi Schneerson preach? Well, he preached Jewish supremacism, the hatred of all non-Jews. And you don't have to take my word for it, because if I said it, they would say that's anti-Semitism. You should instead take the word of the two Jewish professors who translated his work. Those authors' names were Israel Shahak and Norton Mezvinsky. And their book was entitled Jewish Fundamentalism in Israel. from that book, we learned that Shmuly's mentor, Schneerson, describes the difference between a Jew and a non-Jew. And he says, quote, "Thus, we do not have a case of profound change in which a person is merely on a superior level. The body of a Jewish person is of totally different quality from the body of all nations of the world." And he talks about the substance of the Jewish body versus the substance of non-Jews, saying that the inner quality, quote, is so different and so great that the body should be considered completely different species. So that is a belief. And you can go through his speeches and you will see that he continually talks about how non-Jews should be treated and that, again, we are a different species. This is
like, okay, look, I wouldn't say go ahead and read the Talmud to understand every Jewish perspective. But if you honestly want to understand, like, you know, the mindset of the people she's talking about, the Pacific sect of Judaism, then yeah, you might want to read the Talmud because it does, well, preach Jewish supremacy. Like, they're of a different breed. It's kind of funny, but they kind of see themselves as the superior race. It's a little bit weird, but hey,
is what Rabbi Shmuly believes in. We have to come to terms with the fact that there are Jewish radicals, and it's incumbent upon the Jewish community to call them out. I'm glad that you brought up my rhetoric about Black Lives Matter, the organization, and which was basically allowing Black criminals to take to the street to burn down, to loot, and to riot in the name of racism, because it shows that I'm on equal footing here, that across the board, I do not support supremacism, whether it's coming from my community or whether or not it is coming from yours. And I think the entire world is now paying attention and wondering what is going on in Israel. What is this government? Is this a radical fringe government? And many people are concluding that the answer to that question is yes.
Okay. There's the two opening statements.
Yeah, ever since this whole like Israel-Hamas thing done popped off, it's been a bright ass light that's been shined on Jewish supremacy. Like, we're now shining a whole light on the Jewish religion, going like, all right, well, why y'all doing this? Why do y'all think like this? Because there's some people in this country, in Israel, that Loki thinks they're all on the right. Like, yeah, F the children of Palestine, just bomb them all. We'll just move in and forget it. There's people who literally think that. Not all of them, but there are some who are kind of wondering, well, what's all the vitriol for? Let me know.
Rabbi Shmuly, let me ask you this.
Make sure to get the likes up, man. Let's get it to 30 likes.
We now with this war? Because it seems that the people inside Israel are now beginning to come after Prime Minister Netanyahu, angry that his mission to save the hostages is simply not working. We saw 6 more executed at the weekend. Obviously, that's on Hamas. But the relatives of other hostages are saying, for God's sake, bring back the hostages before it's too late. And there's no sign of any deal being done to do that. And there's a lot of pressure on Netanyahu. Is his mission statement failing?
Well, be real with you.
Yes, I will answer that.
Benjamin Netanyahu's whole, presidency, if you would say, is failing. Like, he was about to get brought up on corruption charges. Then, oh, lucky him, you know, Israel-Hamas conflict pops off, and now, oh, he's still in office, making all these calls, coming to America, telling us that we're going to give him money and all that good stuff. It kind of seems to work out for this guy.
In just a moment, but Pierce,
worked out a little
your
too
guest
well.
just called me mentally unhinged. She called me filth twice on your show. You did not just say to her, Candace, can you stop the ad hominem attacks? Did I ever say anything? I stuck to policy. Can you at least just be fair and say that's unnecessary, Candace, or is this too against law?
Well, no.
Why are you always trying to shame her?
You spent 4 minutes lacerating her.
Calling me mentally unhinged, is that
you're sitting there to defend that charge.
Is that ad hominem?
You spent 4 minutes attacking her personally.
Yeah, Pierce is being pretty damn fair. He's like, look, you attacked her personally. I ain't say nothing. So if she attacks you personally, guess what? I'm not saying nothing. If y'all want to go ahead and go for the tit for tat, cool. But don't go over there talking crazy. And when she talk crazy to you back, you want to be, oh, check her. It's like, nah, G, check yourself.
She's perfectly entitled
Pierce,
to
with all due respect, when one of your guests calls someone else filth, I think that you, as an English gentleman, should step in. But let me answer your question. No less, the only thing of Christ
hey, what's up,
that
Glitch?
Candace Owens
Appreciate
has actually fulfilled comes from Matthew chapter 10, verse 35, where Jesus says, I've come to separate and create conflict between a woman and her mother-in-law and father-in-law. My answer to your question about Gaza is that Lord Michael Farmer, a courageous British peer, who happens to be Candace Owens' father-in-law, issued one of the most robust and beautiful defenses of Israel that any of us have read since October 7th. He said that, of course, there's a lot of terrible Palestinian casualties. God loves every Palestinian child as much as he loves a Jewish child. He said that Israel has no choice but to fight this war because Hamas hides in residential areas and under nurseries. He said that Israel, the savagery...
I'm low-key getting tired of that. It's like, oh, Hamas hides in nurseries and all that. I'm like, that's not an excuse to go blow up the nursery with the kid in it. It's not. I don't know who needs to tell y'all that, but maybe I would seem less cowardly if the IDF was going there, put boots on the ground of Gaza and surgically remove these Hamas members. We're talking about civilians. So if you're telling me if you're afraid of civilians too, then just be honest. Just go ahead and say that, oh yeah, everybody in Gaza is Hamas. We're going to take them all out. Be honest. Don't go and bomb a whole bunch of kids and women and talk about, oh, well, there was one or maybe a couple Hamas there. Like, no, that's unacceptable. If you know there's a couple of Hamas there, but a whole bunch of women and children, go ahead and get your soldiers, walk on feet, and go in there and remove them surgically.
Of October 7th demands a response. He said that Israel is doing exactly the right thing. And he said that he's doing all this in response to a, quote, high-profile member of his family. The contempt to not even mention his daughter-in-law, Candace Owens, because he didn't want to say her name. And he didn't even say, I love my daughter-in-law, but because the British remember Hitler, they remember the Battle of Britain, they remember the V-1 and V-2 rockets. Candace Owens has actually now said that the Nazis were the good guys and it was the allies, the British, people like yourself, Pierce, who engaged in the ethnic cleansing of 12 million people based on some documentary she watched called The Savage Peace on the BBC.
Well, now, look, there's been many of documentaries that honestly, well, they didn't really call the Nazis the good guys. There was one that called the Nazis the good guy, and that's the documentary that shall not be named. Then there's the one that painted them as the bad guys, but still brought up the point that, well, after Germany put down the arms and all that, y'all came in and y'all start slaughtering them. Yes, y'all start ethnically slaughtering Germans. Actually, there was a whole propaganda campaign to demonize the German people. Well, coming out of Jewish media, Jewish-owned media. I'll just be real with you.
BBC, which wasn't even about the Allies. Okay? She always distorts. It was about the Czechoslovakia, a country that no longer even exists. And as far as what she said about Michael Jackson, putting me on enemies list, that is a total fabrication. It was invented by someone named Dieter Wietzner, who sued Michael Jackson for $64 million, tried to shake him down, and Michael had to pay him $4 million. I worked to save Michael's life. Candace Owens never met Michael Jackson. I was his rabbi for 2 years. I love him. I missed him. I tried to get him off of drugs. She said that I killed him.
Michael Jackson wasn't on drugs. He was having problems sleeping. So they induced him with drugs. If you look up how Michael Jackson died, he died of propofol overdose. Propofol is one hell of a drug, heavy ass drug, right there with morphine, really, that they use to put patients to sleep who are in incredible pain or who just can't sleep for whatever reason. Like, you give them anything and it just won't go. Michael Jackson was one of those poor people who low-key couldn't sleep. And he had some type of pain that would keep him up from sleeping. So they hit him with the propofol. He wasn't on drugs. He was being prescribed drugs. There's a difference.
And talk about the contempt for people struggling with addiction, that she would say the Jews killed Michael Jackson. And with all due respect, Pierce, you have not said that one of those things, that I'm a murderer, a man who doesn't have a speeding ticket, who doesn't have a parking ticket, is a murderer, and the police have to come and the FBI to protect me.
Because, bro, when we all think about drugs, we think, oh, he was on crack cocaine and all that good stuff. I'm like, yeah, no, he wasn't. He was on a medical drug, not a street drug, medical. So when he said, I was trying to get him off drugs, I'm like, no, you weren't, because the doctor prescribed him those drugs. So Lord knows you weren't trying to get him off that.
I'm going to say...
And notice how he's not trying to say what drugs he was
once
on,
again,
he'll get sued.
You've just singularly failed to answer my question. So if you're just going to continue, every time I ask you a question about the war, which is the point of the debate, to just launch into Candace or her family or whatever, that's your decision. But in the interest of fairness, every time you speak for 3-4 minutes, well, hang on. I'm now going to let Candace respond. If you want to, Candace, look, it is It is obviously a matter of public record that your father-in-law, Lord Farmer, did post on X what he posted. He concluded by saying, I point out I'm the Christian Deputy Chair of the Council for Christians and Jews. This was founded in 1942 as a bulwark against anti-Semitism. I mean, do you want to say anything about what your father-in-law posted or anything else that Rabbi Shmuley just said?
Yeah, I'm grateful that he brought that up, and because it's very disturbing to me to see him try to pretend that my father-in-law distanced from me or said something in favor of anything that Rabbi Shmuley is saying. He would never do that. It is very important to understand that, you know, he does support Israel, and he has reaffirmed his support for Israel. And you can imagine that within any family, you have disagreements about things, but fundamentally, it's all love, you know, and it's good for us to have these conversations. Prior to him posting the statement, I had just gotten back from vacation with him. Literally 48 hours earlier, there was something incredibly demonic about a person trying to use the Bible at the beginning of his statement, as he did, trying to quote scripture and immediately following it up by trying to pull a family apart. I mean, that is utterly unholy. And I think the question of holiness and what is holy is relevant to this discussion. I think this is a conversation that a lot of people are having as well. Look, prior to October 7th, I don't think many people were engaged with what is happening in Israel. You know, we kind of all said the same thing. Israel is our friend and ally. I count myself among those people. Post October 7th, the world, and especially I would say Zionists in media, were demanding that we all pay attention. And when we began to pay attention, we didn't like what we saw. You cannot.
Hey, we got 1,100 of y'all in here, man. Make sure to like the video, man. Go ahead and double tap that screen or 3 dots up there in the corner, man. Let's get us to 100 likes for the stream, man. Appreciate y'all for tuning in.
Not tell me to ever feel comfortable with 18,000 children being ruthlessly murdered. You can't get me to feel comfortable as a Christian with the amount of more explosives dropped, tons of explosives dropped on Gaza than were dropped in Hiroshima. This doesn't make sense to me. Gaza is 30 miles long, 7 miles wide. It's incredibly dense population. And this is, by the way, according to Haaretz, that 40,000 Palestinians have been murdered. I believe they're getting those numbers from the Gaza Health Ministry. And here's what I would like to say to you, Rabbi, since you're quoting scripture, okay? The one that's relevant to me is, woe unto them that call evil good and good evil, that put darkness for light.
And here's the thing, Candace ain't never really do nothing to Rabbi Shmuley, but he don't went on a full assault on her. If you really want to be real, this man started it as soon as Candace started questioning Israel, which it is kind of funny. Like, she lost her job at the Daily Wire and he still went crazy on her. It's like, this man does not take no breaks. So now that they're filing this debate and Candace is going off on her, man, it's a coming to Jesus moment. Like, man, let's go.
Light and light for darkness. And if you'd like to dive into a little more scripture, I think what's relevant is Revelation 3:9. Behold, I will make them of the synagogue of Satan, which say they are Jews and are not, but do lie. And I'm speaking directly to you, Rabbi Shmuley.
Ooh, man. He said directly to you. I like that. Anyway, though, if you have any questions or comments you want to super chat in, man, just send in $1 up and go ahead and read it out loud on the chat, man. We appreciate the support, man. Let's get right back to it. Like I said, let's get us to 100 likes, man. Double tap that screen for me.
The fact that you would try to say, I am Jewish and this is what I believe, and do and say the things that you are doing. People can see and hear evil, and what you are doing right now is an act of evil. The lies that you are telling, not just on me, but also on my family members, are a good example for the world to see what we are referring to when we call something radical Zionism.
Okay, Rabbi Shmuley.
Okay, and okay, thank you. And of course, Piers.
Yeah, I would consider that radical Zionism. It's like, all right, dog. You know, so Israel can do no wrong. You being a Zionist and being aligned with Israel is okay. It's whatever. But you having extreme alliance to Israel where they could do no wrong, yeah, that's where we kind of have a problem. We're kind of like, yeah, G, you may want to chill out a little bit. Like, and you're in America. It's like, come on, where's your America first? Where's that America first attitude?
There was nothing ad hominem about my being demonic. This is a 2-against-1 debate. I expected that.
It's not a 2-against-1 debate.
And I will, excuse me, no, it's a 2-against-1 debate.
You've made no attempt to answer my question.
No. Piers, let me speak.
Candace has been trying to answer my
Candace
question.
just said,
bro, only through ad hominem.
You're not.
Candace just said, Candace, filth, demonic. There's nothing ad hominem about that. You are correct. You're right, Piers. Candace Owens just said that Israel dropped more bombs on Gaza than on Hiroshima. Hiroshima was an atomic bomb, Candace. You know, why don't you just read Wikipedia? Israel has nuclear weapons. They've never used them, so I have no idea what you're
It's actually funny because, well, back in the 60s, Israel wasn't supposed to have any nuclear weapons, but somehow they found themselves with a nuclear weapon. Actually, I remember JFK specifically saying that, yeah, we don't want y'all with nuclear weapons, and they were creating these, well, let's just say they were creating the space to make nuclear weapons, and JFK ain't like that.
Talking about.
So it's a bit funny how they got it off today when they weren't supposed to.
Justified defense.
Israel
admits, and even Hamas admits, to a 1-to-1 civilian to combatant ratio of civilian casualties, which is a tragedy. It shouldn't even be one. But remember, Hamas fires their rockets from nurseries. The United States and Afghanistan had a 4-to-1 ratio of civilians murdered for.
Even if that's true, you don't blow up the nursery. Even if that's true, don't blow up the nursery now.
Everyone combatant.
That don't make it look too good.
In the Korean War, it was 5-to-1. In Iraq, it was at least 2-to-1. Israel has the lowest per capita ratio of combatants to civilians. Candace should acknowledge that. That is what we call a fact.
But you should also, hang on. You should also acknowledge then that there is a unique demographic in Gaza where of the 2 million people who live there, half of them are under 18. So that's a very different demographic to any of the other scenarios you're talking about. That is what's caused so much.
Oh, and like I said, if you got any questions or comments or any jokes you want read out loud to the stream, man, go ahead and super chat $1 plus, or go ahead and read it out loud. We got over 1,000 y'all in here, so make sure to double tap that screen. Let's get us to 80 likes, man. Appreciate y'all.
International opprobrium against Israel is the fact that so many children, pro rata in the civilian death count, have been killed. It's that people are so exercised about, and rightly, because
you can't tell people to go somewhere and bomb them.
Hamas, yes, they've embedded themselves in civilian territory. Yes, they've built all these tunnels. None of these things are to be disputed. But the problem with going after Hamas in the way that Israel has been doing is that the collateral damage, as they would put it, to so many thousands of children has now tested the patience of the world to a degree that vast quantities of the world are against it and want this to stop. That's the reality.
I think that's a very fair question. You know, and I don't like whataboutism, but Candace Owens never spoke out once against Bashar al-Assad, who killed 600,000 Arabs, and he actually gassed to death children. He targeted them with mustard and poison gas. You remember that President Obama said that's a red line, and then he gave it to Putin to get rid of those weapons of mass destruction.
Which was completely
God bless
wrong.
President Trump, who actually wait, just a second. President Trump, God bless him, actually fired 59 cruise missiles when Assad did that. It's funny because people say that President Trump is anti-Muslim. He's the only one who protected Muslim life. Pierce, Hamas has ruled since 2006. They won.
Hey man, go ahead and super chat your opinions on Israel and this Israel and Hamas conflict. Just $1 and up to get it read out loud, and we'll go ahead and we'll damn near have a little conversation about it. Appreciate the support. If not, man, go ahead and double tap that screen, man, and give us a like, man. We love the support either way.
Election jointly with the PA. They took the Palestinian Authority representatives and threw them off of rooftops. They then subjected the Palestinians, 1.5 million Palestinians of Gaza, to the most ruthless persecution that we've ever seen. They stole all their money. Ismail Haniyeh, who was assassinated in Tehran, is worth $4 billion. Now he's fighting with Erdogan, his kids, over who's going to inherit that. Khalid Mashal is worth $3 billion. You and I both know that the Palestinians of Gaza got triple the amount per capita, prorated for our times, of the Marshall Plan. All of that money was stolen to build tunnels. There isn't one bomb shelter. The reason why people are dying in Gaza is because that money was used.
Yo, anybody else in the chat seen these tunnels? This elaborate highway tunnel, this elaborate highway underground tunnel system that they got. Anybody seen that? Because I ain't seen it yet. I just think it's an excuse to start bombing, buildings and all that. Because they say, oh, well, there's a tunnel. I'm like, okay, cool. There's a tunnel in the building. How do you blowing up that building get to the tunnel? If anything, it just closes the entrance to the tunnel so y'all can't get inside this tunnel.
Used to buy penthouses in Doha, Qatar. There isn't one bomb shelter that from Hamas. Hamas shoots and murders anyone who challenges their authority. They were elected in 2006 to a 4-year term. It's now 20 years later. Hamas specifically, and that's why they're being condemned by the Palestinians right now. They want Palestinian children to die because the more they die, the more you will condemn me and Israel. But let's remember, Pierce, your parents are part of the greatest generation. Winston Churchill was told by the Americans, don't bomb German cities, Hamburg, Dresden, etc. at night. You can't see what you're bombing. Do what we Americans have, which is precision daytime bombing. And Churchill said, no, my pilots are more important. We need the RAF.
All right.
And he flattened German cities. And he is considered today the greatest British statesman of the 20th century.
Think about it like this. If they have tunnels, then why are they still bombing buildings? No, make that make sense. Cool. They got the tunnel. They know where they are. They know Hamas is hiding in these tunnels specifically. Why are they still bombing citizens? Like, you can't make that make sense. But like I said, make sure to like the video. If you have any questions or comments, you want to go ahead and super chat in. It's $1 and up, and we'll go ahead and read it out loud to, well, over 1,000 of y'all, man. Appreciate y'all.
By the way, the flattening of